Huddle Up with Gus is partnered with and distributed by TribLive.com. TribLive.com is your source for local news in Western Pennsylvania. Get breaking news and the best sports commentary around from Tim Benz, Mark Madden, Kevin Gorman, and more online at TribLive.com. Joining us in the huddle this week is a Pittsburgh icon, growing up in Millvale and graduating from NorthAlleghenyHigh School and ClarionUniversity. Chances are you've heard him on KDKA bringing us the morning news or as the voice of countless commercials. He has served as a master of ceremonies for over 100 charities, graced us with his skills as a PA announcer at Heinz Field, and has been the voice of the Steelers for NFL Films during the past 7 years. This lifelong resident of the Burgh is also a writer and producer of films and documentaries, and close friend of the late Bruno Sammartino. Dan Marino is lucky to call him his brother-in-law. Please welcome into the huddle, Larry Richert.
Thanks for coming back on the Huddle with us. Huddle Up with Gus. We got another special guest, longtime Pittsburgh personality. Everyone knows him. He's more famous than I think anybody has ever grew up in Pittsburgh. But welcome to the show today, Larry. Thanks for joining us in the Huddle. How are you doing?
Mostly heard and not seen.
No, so I don't know. I don't know.
Voice, I know that guy. You know what I did? I did 10 years of TV weather. So that was KDKA-TV in the evening. So sometimes I was maybe the last thing people saw before they went to bed. But it's not glamorous to be on TV when you're the weather guy because nobody's happy.
Right.
Your family's not happy. One time this little woman in the mall says, "You ruined my daughter's wedding." And I said, "What happened?" She said, "It rained." I said, "When was that?" She said, "Last Saturday." I said, "Well, that's what we said was going to happen." She goes, "Yeah, but you never write." So even when you're right, you're wrong. So,
right. But I thought that was a good thing about being a weatherman. Like, you didn't have to be right.
The upside is you can only be half right and stay employed.
Right.
There aren't too many jobs. You can't be a CPA.
Right.
You can't work in a bank or corporate America. So,
although I think my completion percentage was around 50%, but I played for 15 years.
No, man, it was fun. It was fun to watch you play, and we always root for the hometown guys. I mean, it's not easy to be in the league and play at that level, at that position, for as long as you played.
No, it was a lot of fun, and coming from a little town, Fort City, and
There's a lot of famous people from that area.
Yeah, there's quite a few. You know, we've had quite a few.
The water up there, or what is it?
I don't know. I think it's just the water in Pittsburgh. You know, whether it's the Allegheny or the Mon, I don't know. There's a whole book written on it, I think, about all the quarterbacks.
I know, the Western Pennsylvania, we're kind of rich with that. But people will recognize me, because it's been a while since I've been on TV every night. So they're not sure if it's me or John Burnett, who just retired.
Right.
Or John Shumway, people, or they just think I'm familiar. And a lot of times people will say, "You look like somebody."
Right. Well, everybody in Pittsburgh says that. You know.
But if they hear me, they probably have heard maybe in passing my voice.
You are one of the most recognizable people in Pittsburgh. I mean, I just Googling you, I mean, there's a ton of pictures come up because you do so much charity work.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, how many did you do last year?
Probably 60, 70.
Yeah, whether you're the keynote or you're the chair or whatever it is.
When I was the weather guy, people would invite you because you're on TV. They want you to bring the camera to cover their event, which I get. I totally get that.
Right.
So it wasn't even necessarily they think you're so special, but if you bring the camera, you give them some notoriety. We did these things called a little hometown salute. So we do the weather forecast.
I remember those, yeah.
And we go to, Ford City Fire Hall.
Right.
And the guys would say, "Salute," Ford City. And people seem to like that. But as you know, this is a small town, big city in the sense that all the charity, and you move through those circles, you end up meeting a lot of great people whose hearts are in the right place. They're trying to do good things. And so over time, you just network, and then the price is right because it's charity. I do it gratis because I think I should. And so people say, "Hey, if you go to one, then there's another."
Well, it's also KDKA pays you really well.
They do? Yeah. I got a good quarterback story for you. So Joe Namath.
Yeah.
So one time I got to play golf with Joe in Florida. Didn't know he was going to be there. Got there, and Joe drove the cart.
Oh.
And I I sit in the car, and I'm like, this is pretty cool, still in Namath, right? And as we're taking off of the first hole, he goes, so Larry, do you work for a living or are you just rich? I go, Joe, I work in Pittsburgh at KDKA. He goes, well, that answers both questions.
That's a good Joe Davis story.
I also golf with Johnny Unitas.
Oh, did you?
And this because of charity. So we did this Juvenile Diabetes Foundation event, and they had brought in Johnny Unitas. And Johnny Unitas was going to be the keynote. And I did a live shot for TV where he threw me a pass.
Right.
But I caught a pass from Johnny Unitas. I'm sure many people have asked you to do the same thing over the years. So I didn't know who I was golfing with. I didn't care, right?
Right.
And then I see Johnny Unitas' golf bag on a golf cart. And then I see mine next to it. I'm like, nah, somebody's messing with me.
Right.
And then sure enough, I got to play a round of golf with Johnny Unitas and hear these great stories about Don Shula, and because he was the Baltimore Colts, he was their coach, and so it was fascinating to hear Johnny Unitas talk about that and the Steelers and that's stuff.
Yeah, those are times that you could never get in an interview. He would never tell you that stuff if you interviewed him on there and anything.
No,
but
the
in
more
that
he played, the more he relaxed.
Yeah, and they had a few drinks.
But afterwards, so they had also invited Greg Lloyd.
Oh, really?
The Steelers' famed linebacker, had a surly disposition, and he was still playing. And we were at the table at the dinner afterwards, and it got a little heated because they were arguing about the modern defense against, the old school offense. And our guys, it was fun.
They were going back and forth.
Fly on the wall. But
just listen to that.
I didn't want to be in the middle.
Right. Just keep me on the side. But you have an amazing story. I mean, you were born in Millvale.
Right.
And
which is a little town right next to Pittsburgh on the Allegheny River, and so I say I'm a river rat by birth. My dad's from the north side.
He's from the north side. And where did you, after you didn't live there though? You grew up in...
I grew up in McCandlessTownship, which is in the footprint of North Allegheny, which wasn't as big as it is today. They call it the University of North Allegheny. But my dad got a job selling Chevys at Barrel Chevrolet on the flats in Wexford.
Oh, wow.
Which back then was like the Northwest Territories, moving my mom, who's a city girl, where you could walk to the butcher's shop or in the bakery, to the edge of North Park, which literally
there was nothing there then, probably.
People.
Yeah.
And she didn't drive. She didn't have a driver's license. So I actually remember, I have 3 brothers. I'm number 3 of 5 children. My sister's the youngest. I remember my dad with 3 of us in the back seat, no seat belts, in a bench seat, bouncing off the walls. My mother driving and him trying to teach her. It was one of the most terrifying times in my life.
So you had quite a bit. You had what? 4 siblings. You're one of 5.
Right.
So how big a part of your life was sports when you were growing up?
Every day. I mean, we played unorganized sports in the backyard. Wiffle ball, football, basketball. Not so much me basketball for obvious reasons. I was no Spud Webb.
Right.
But the whole neighborhood. So my dad worked Saturdays at the dealership. So every Saturday morning, especially in the spring and summer, my mom was so aggravated at the breakfast table, she'd tell us to get out.
Don't come back
don't come back till your dad gets home and you hear the whistle on the porch.
Yeah.
So we'd be in the neighborhood. And you play with the older kids, the younger kids, you all kind of worked it out.
Yeah.
It was always wrapped around sports.
It was always.
And I played Little League Baseball, and then I played ice hockey. I did play 2 years of grade school football at St Ursula. I was a Viking.
Really?
And I like to tell the story that I took the angle of pursuit to avoid contact. The problem was I was on defense. I didn't like.
So as the running back's running, you're trying to catch him, but your angle wasn't quite right.
We had this old school military guy as a coach who didn't have a kid in the program.
Weren't they all old school military guys back then?
Screaming and yelling. I was I was intimidated by that, and I didn't like getting hit, Gus. I don't know how you did that all those years, because everyone that meets you on a football field is trying to take your head off.
Yeah, and we don't get to hit anyone, which is terrible.
Right, there must be a lot of pent-up aggression.
There is. I feel bad for my wife all those years. But, when you talk about old school military, like my wife's father, Harry, was my high school football coach. And Harry was like that, right? Because his coach was like that. And then there came to a point to where all that kind of changed. Right. And it's crazy, but all the sports, like all the things that you just talked about, of growing up, going in the backyard, all of us just picking up football games or basketball or wiffle ball. My dad used to bring home felt, and we'd make felt balls and use a broomstick and play, whatever it was.
I know kids kind of laugh because it sounds so antiquated now, because they're all playing electronics, three-dimensional games.
But you learn so much.
Yeah, I know. I feel like, but you can't get them to experience what you did. You can't take them back. So you kind of have to work with where they are now. And now in sports, it's a lot different. But I used to be more of the announcer.
Right.
So we played wiffle. Now batting.
Right.
And what was really cool.
So you kind of always have had that
in a way, yeah, without even realizing it. And I had Bill Mazeroski's number on because he was still playing then.
Yeah.
And he was kind of my childhood baseball hero, him and Roberto Clemente.
Yeah.
I know you're involved in, RC21, which is very cool. And so I was living in that era. And I remember to this day my dad taking me and my brothers to Forbes Field as little kids. And to see that field for the first time with the lights and smell the popcorn and the hot dogs, and, just the whole atmosphere was absolute magic to be there at that game. And then my dad, sometimes in the summer nights, he'd sit in the back porch.
Yeah.
He had a pony bottle of Iron City.
Yeah.
And had the Pirate game on.
Yep.
So even to this day, I'll listen because I get up so early for my radio.
Yeah, for your show.
I still think baseball on the radio has a place because you make it all up in your own mind of what's going on. You hear those guys.
Yeah, use your imagination.
The broadcast team here is so good, and you just kind of drift off on a summer night, so you'll lay back and hear that. Here's the pitch.
That's a great story. So did you carry on you were like me where we played all kinds of sports as youth, and some of them were organized, most of them weren't. I can remember going up to the Lenape Elementary High School, or the Lenape Elementary School, and they had the 8-foot hoops. I can't tell you how many guys showed up and played basketball there just for fun.
Just for fun.
We could all dunk.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
Playing for fun.
Yeah. And so then you go on to high school. Did you play sports in high school?
I played high school hockey. I was a goalie for most of my career.
You were a goalie?
Yeah. And for someone that didn't like to get hit playing football, somehow it felt right to play goalie, which is interesting. And I used to play up at Katanning, the Belmont Arena.
Oh, yeah, Belmont Arena, yeah. Yeah, it's still there.
I still know Larry.
Oh, really?
And I played against some of the guys up there, and they were a good team then.
So who was your idol when you were in high school? If you're playing goalie, you had to have a favorite.
As far as the goalies go, it wasn't so much the goalies, but I really like Bobby Orr, the Boston Bruins. Mm-hmm. As far as the Penguins, Pierre LaRouche.
Yeah.
When he was a rookie, he was young, flashy, all the ladies loved him, scored like 50 goals, 100 points.
Yeah.
Everybody wanted to be like Pierre, and then the old school guys were like John Pronovo, great players. And the Penguins had some decent teams then.
Yeah, so you went to North Allegheny.
North Allegheny.
Played hockey. How big was the school then?
It's big. I think I graduated with 860 kids in my graduating class. So that's a big school. And then I went to Clarion. I didn't pursue sports. I pursued the radio and TV side. So that's how I transitioned.
Did you do some of that in high school?
When I was a senior, we were only the second year in North Allegheny High School. They had put a color television studio in, but they didn't know exactly what they were going to do with it yet.
Right.
So they had 12 kids in a pilot program to go through the process of learning the ropes of making a little TV production.
Yeah.
So they made little 3 to 5 minute pieces, and you were a different crew member on everybody else's project. So you would write, and then you would be the camera person, audio, and so on. And then I did one, back then they had a smoking lounge in high school.
In high school?
In high school for 2 years, which seems absolutely mind-boggling now.
Yeah, bonkers.
So I did kind of my little 60 Minutes piece was smoking in school. Is it a solved problem now that they have a smoking lounge? So I narrated it. So they showed these to the school board, kind of, here's what we're doing with this money you spent.
Right.
And they played my tape, and someone said, well, I thought this was for the kids. And someone said, it is for the kids. He goes, well, who's that guy narrating? Which, that little bit of encouragement gave me enough of an incentive to where I thought, well, maybe I should pursue that. Because you never know where it's coming from.
Well, what did your parents and your family think? Like, did they kind of push you to that direction? Because
my dad was big on. He never got to. He went to Duquesne for a semester, but then he just didn't have the money or the time to go through college. He was big on telling us, you got to get an education.
Yeah, my dad was the same way.
Options. You're just going to give yourself more options. So he said, follow your passion. If you're passionate about something, you're going to put the effort in. If you're putting the effort in, you're going to have some degree of success. Don't worry about the money. Because even if you don't make a lot of money, you'll be doing something you love.
Right.
So that was kind of the incentive for me to, pursue that, because I got some positive feedback.
Yeah.
I thought that would be great to be in radio and TV. And on our mirror, he was always very positive. And he put those Dyna labeler, little stickers that would say, positive attitude, enthusiasm, self-discipline, set your goals, which everybody laughed at. But here I am, how many years later, I can tell you exactly what they said. So some of it stuck.
Yeah.
And then I did love radio and TV, and so I didn't think I'd be able to make a living at it.
And you chose Clarion because they had a program in that?
My buddy, who was in that same program in high school, who was a football player at NA, and he went to Clarion a year ahead of me because I stayed home to work. I worked as a parts man at a foreign car place to make money to go to school.
Oh, okay.
So I had to buy a little extra
So you
time.
took a year off?
Yeah. He went up and he goes, this radio stuff is great. So I didn't do a fraternity or any of that. Was my fraternity.
Right.
So we hung out at the radio station and then got into TV.
Did you do, were you like the DJ and everything? Like a lot of times when you're at those radio stations in college, you got to do all the
When
things.
you start, you kind of do everything. But here's the first thing you always hear a young DJ say. Hello, everybody. It's like, hello, everybody.
Oh, man, that's funny.
So,
now, how many people were listening to Clarion?
no one.
Yeah.
I don't even think there were any. Even the people that were in the station probably weren't listening. They had speakers in kind of the conference room area. We had speakers out the window of the student union.
Right.
building. But I don't know how many people were actually
What year were
listening.
you at Clarion?
Yes, I was.
Yeah.
77 to 81.
Yeah, so my brother was there from 79 to 83.
Yeah?
Yeah, he went to Clarion. And that's
so crazy.
Yeah.
That's so Pittsburgh.
Driving back from Clarion is actually how I found out I was kind of blind, because there was like, when you would come down through New Bethlehem,
Right.
there was a big sign up on the hill. I can't remember what it said. And my mom said something, and I said, Mom, what's that sign say? She goes, it's as big as that building. You can't read it? I said, no, I can't see it. Next day I'm at the eye doctor getting
Really?
big Coke bottles. Yeah, that's where I figured out.
Football.
Contacts.
Quarterback.
And then I had LASIKs at the TLC, Dr. Witten. I'm sure you've done a commercial for them.
The TLC,
Yeah.
we did. Actually, my son did it.
Yeah.
He was a player at Duquesne and played in Germany and was coaching at Carnegie Mellon.
Yeah, I went through high school contacts, college contacts, losing them, putting them in, getting
Right.
And then after my rookie year, I just said, I can't. I got to fix this. This is just miserable. And
It's a miracle thing.
so
my son says it's like a miracle.
it's unbelievable.
As
So
you can see,
I said, well, who do you get? You got to get somebody that's good.
Tiger Woods guy.
That's exactly. And then actually I did some commercials for them, and they did like 5 people in my whole family, and they ran some commercials here in Washington, D.C. So it was kind of nice.
That is
and
cool.
And it's amazing. You wake up the next morning and you see the alarm clock.
I can't imagine.
Yeah.
I really would like that.
It's phenomenal, and it's way less expensive than it used to be. But it is a miracle.
And it's quick.
Yeah, and I really don't understand why it's not covered by insurance, because it's like something that it's not like I'm getting a facelift or something, but it's actually can be a safety, right?
Right.
I would think that
Yes.
it should help your
Be
health.
able to see.
Yes. So I don't know, it's crazy. So you go on to Clarion, you're there 4 years,
Yes.
doing the DJ, the radio station, did you call any games there? Did
Yes,
you go for
3 years of football and basketball.
Which
John
one?
Calipari was...
Yeah. Which one did you like better, football or basketball?
I like to do football better because I had a better understanding of the game. Basketball, was fun too, because back then Clarion was in the NAIA and they were very
Right.
good.
Yeah.
Coach Joe DiGregorio
Yeah.
took us to Kemper Arena in Kansas City for their tournament.
Yeah.
So it was their version of March Madness for that level of play. And John Calipari was there.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Wow.
some good things came out of that program.
Yeah.
And then football, I just always wanted to do that. You know, to sit there and cover football play by play.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like, and I took it like, okay, I'm not a player. I exclude the 2 years I played grade school football. It doesn't qualify me to be. But I found out you don't have to be that guy if you're the play-by-play guy.
Right.
The color analyst is almost always an ex-player, so that you can talk about, well, what they were trying to do on this play, or this
Yeah.
is what develops. My job is to follow the action and set it up. And I really love doing that.
Well, most of the football players aren't going to be able to remember all the guys' numbers and names and everything else. We just want to watch the game and talk about it, right? But that's why we're all colored, because we can't remember. You know, they give you the sheet, you got to study it, and
Listen,
you know,
anybody-
you would be really good at it.
If anyone thinks it's easy, though, I have the greatest respect for Bill Hillgrove. Now, he just completed his 50th year of Pitt football, or basketball, 45th year of Pitt football,
That's amazing.
25th year of Steelers football. And I worked with him in the mid-'80s for 4 years when Ironhead Hayward was
Right.
there. I was the producer of the broadcast, so I traveled with the team. I was the guy behind Bill giving him the cue cards to go to the commercial breaks and did the timing of the show.
Right.
Then, 8 years ago, I got a call asked to be part of the broadcast. So I'm thinking, wow, after all these years, Bill's still there doing what
Bill's-
he does at a high level.
It's amazing.
And, I've done it a couple of times. I did 3 Pitt games, play-by-play, when Bill's schedule didn't permit. And it's not easy.
No, there's no way
so-
it's easy.
He makes it so effortless and smooth, and his voice is so iconic. But my job now is for 2 hours prior to kickoff, I anchor the pregame with Pat Bostic. And
Yeah,
Pat,
yeah.
former Pitt quarterback. He's the X's and O's guy. He's a Pitt savant because he's there. He works there in the development department. He loves the game still. So he provides that insight. My job is to get between segments, one place to the other, and kind of build the kickoff. Then I go down to the sidelines. I'm on the field, and I do the post-game interview with Coach and some players. And Pat and Bill participate in that. So it's kind of the perfect combo for me because I still get to do and be a part of something I really enjoy. I don't do it for any other reason than I love it.
Right.
So I'm not there
Which
to
is
try
great.
to make more money. I'm not there to try to use this to go somewhere else. I told Coach Pat Arduzzi, I said, I'm here strictly because I love it. And he kind of looked at me and he's like, yeah, I guess you would be at this point.
Well, it's so different than being a coach, right? If you're a coach or a GM or somebody else, the times that you get to spend in the same place are very few. But doing what you do and being here as long, you've been with KDK for how many years now?
31.
31. And then, but you can branch out to different areas around here. You've worked with Pitt, you've worked with the Steelers.
Right. In 1985, so I believe John Facenda died in 1983. He's that great voice
Right.
that everybody still hears occasionally.
Yeah.
From all that time ago. There are 27 teams in pro football.
Right.
Gus Verrott. He dies. So Myron Cope, the great color analyst and talk show host and writer, had Steve Sable on from NFL Films. He goes, Steve, what are you going to do? And Steve said, well, you can't replace John Facenda, but we have to get another narrator. So they had an open audition. So I sent a tape in. Now, WTAE, I worked there 6 years before KDKA,
right,
in the radio side. We had the rights.
Was that
WTAE? We had the rights to the Steelers and Pitt at that time.
Yeah.
So I would feed NFL Films clips, highlight radio clips of Pitt games or Steelers games, Steelers games in that case. And the guy, there's always a Pittsburgh connection. His name's Bob Angelo. He was originally from Neville Island. He worked for NFL Films. He's the guy that wrote There Are 2017.
Really?
Yes. And he said, why don't you send an audition in? So he said that they had a room where nobody's name was announced. They just would play a little clip of everybody who sent a tape in, and you were a number. And then they had their staff kind of evaluate. Right. Well, apparently I was in the top 12, he said. And he goes, man, they're only taking 2, but you kind of got close. He says, maybe you could do the Steeler highlight film. I'm thinking, I got so excited. I'm like, maybe. So it took a couple seasons, and then eventually I got to narrate the Steelers highlight film.
Wow.
1985. I was just a young guy. And you talk about an out-of-body experience being a Pittsburgher. Three River Stadium in the film room where they showed the highlight film to the local media and sponsors. Yeah. Standing there is Art Rooney, the chief.
Yeah.
You know?
And you got to perform in front of him.
And I am introduced to him as, this is the young man that's narrating our film. And he goes, you know, he had those Coke bottle lenses on, and he goes, where are you from, kid? And he had that cigar. And I said, well, my dad's from the north side. Well.
Oh, that's all you had. You knew what to say.
I knew that. And Chuck Noll was there, and, you know, they had just really, wasn't that many years away from the 4 Super Bowls.
Right.
So this was like an out-of-body experience, and my dad had left work to come down and watch it. You know, it was kind of a proud moment. I'm sure when your family watched you play significant games in your life, and
it is
the
proud.
family thing is
it's big.
Faith, family, football.
Right.
You know, we're kind of cut from that.
Yeah, we all cut. You know, I mean, that's my family. We were all about football. I mean, my cousin Mitch played for many years in the NFL. I played. I've had uncles that played at Virginia and one at North Carolina. So football's been in our blood for a long time. But it is, and then had to be an altar boy. Had to go to church twice a week, all that stuff.
So all paid off for you.
Right. And family was big. My dad was one of 15 kids. So when you talk about family, that was big. God. Yeah, he had a big family.
Bruno Sammartino.
Yeah, I love when you say his name, Minnie.
Bruno. Well, I love when Arnold Schwarzenegger says it, because I interviewed Arnold about Bruno.
Did you really?
Bruno Sammartino. So 30 years ago, I had a TV show in the morning on KDKA. A producer says, we have Bruno Sammartino coming on tomorrow. I'm like, Bruno Sammartino? Me and my brothers, we broke some furniture over Bruno Sammartino, recreating stuff in the living room. And my mom would come out in the back porch. It's almost on, studio wrestling on Saturday night. Yeah. Before you could DVR or stop play, you had to watch it in the moment.
You had to watch it.
And we'd run in, we'd get a bag of chips, French onion dip in a little 7-ounce Coke bottle.
Yeah.
That was like...
That was the best.
So I'm like, Bruno, this is so cool. I told my father-in-law, the late Dan Marino Sr.
Yeah.
He said, oh, Bruno was my classmate at Shenley when he moved here from Italy. I'm like, what? Turns out they're from the same little town in Italy on the top of the Apennine Mountains called Pizzaferrato. Mr. Marino's dad and family came from the same place.
Same place as Bruno?
Yes.
Wow.
So he gave me all these pictures. And when I told Bruno, my father-in-law says, hello. Oh, who's your father-in-law? I said, Dan Marino Sr. He goes, oh, I went to school with him,
Yeah.
We're families from the same place. So this created this 30-year relationship that I had with Bruno. We're about to release a documentary about Bruno's life, focused more on when he was 8 years old, the Nazi SS came to their village and killed a third of the men, women, and children, and they had to run and hide even deeper into the mountains. And they were already in the middle of nowhere. He survives all this incredible story. So how does a 75-pound, 13-year-old immigrant who can't speak the language become the strongest man in the world?
Wow.
So we interview Arnold Schwarzenegger because Arnold said Bruno was one of his inspirations.
Wow.
Bruno used to judge some of the competitions when Arnold was coming up. And he said, who is this Bruno Sammartino? I saw this guy, he keeps asking me to do this again. And he goes, so they said, you've got to see him. So we go to Madison Square Garden, it's packed to the rafters. And I said, Bruno Sammartino is lifting these guys 300-400 pounds over his head. How is this possible? He is the star of all stars. And he said, this is one of the greatest immigration stories of all time, Bruno Sammartino.
Oh, that's pretty good.
We went to Italy with Bruno twice, 2010, to take him back to where they hid from the Nazis, which he said he would never go. It was very emotional.
And it had to be.
But it was fun because when he got out of the car in his hometown, Moses wouldn't have got a better reception.
Really?
It was so cool to see. And people just loved him. Some people named their kids after him.
Wow.
This little woman comes up, Bruno Sammartino. She grabs him by the cheeks, you know. I said, what'd she say? Oh, she said she named her son after me. I'm like, Bruno, that's so cool.
That's amazing.
And then everywhere we went, you would hear, Bruno Sammartino, Bruno Sammartino.
Oh my God. And he's very humble too. I mean.
Yeah, and he just passed away last April. And the outpouring of love, to my social media, we got a picture of the marquee in Madison Square Garden. Bruno sold out Madison Square Garden as the headliner 188 times. Nobody's close. Billy Joel just hit 100 last year.
Jesus.
And they put up on the marquee in Madison Square Garden, and Bruno said, this is the greatest arena in the world. And it had a tribute to Bruno. So I took that picture, which we got from the WWE's Triple H.
Right.
And because he was a big fan too. And he helped broker the peace between them and Vince and got him into the Hall of Fame in 2013.
Yeah, which he should have been. Yes,
and
definitely.
I got 65,000 likes on one picture.
Wow.
Bruno Mars is named after Bruno Sammartino.
Really? I didn't know that.
2 years ago he was here. Kevin Colbert, the Steelers GM, Jimmy Sacco, who runs the stadium facilities.
Yeah.
You know, Jimmy's connected to the music business because they have concerts. And so he says, we should get them together. Bruno Mars is in town. Well, we did. And I was with him. And we went in half hour before showtime. We go into Bruno Mars' dressing room. And I don't know how it's going to be. Is this kid going to be kind of a, you know,
superstar?
Madonna,
Ego.
But no, he couldn't have been more gracious. He said, he was smart. He goes, Mr. Sammartino, it's an honor to meet you. Of course, that set the tone.
Yeah.
And then at one point in his career, he said, I'm named after some old fat wrestler. So Bruno said, I just want you to know I'm in pretty good shape. And he goes, I didn't mean anything. He goes, I didn't
Bruno knew that too.
I didn't realize. And he said, when I told my dad I was going to meet you, he was over the moon, and he ran and got his phone, and he said, he texted me, tell Bruno he's the Muhammad Ali of wrestling. Bruno said, well, that's so nice. And Bruno had asked me, should I bring him something? I said, yeah, he'd probably like that for his dad. He pulled out an exact replica of his championship belt to give to his dad. And this kid's rich enough to buy anything.
Right.
He was like ecstatic. So we get this picture. Now, the publicist wouldn't let us take the pictures.
Right.
I think they played with the...
Right.
Yeah. But they posted it on their social media. So Bruno Mars' real name isn't Bruno. That was the nickname his dad gave him when he was in diapers. He goes, oh, you're my Bruno. And so he chose Bruno as his stage name. And I said, well, why Mars? He goes, because women think I'm out of this world. So the next day, the picture, and I'm texting Kevin Colbert and Jimmy Sacco. I go, do you see what's happening? It trended because it was Bruno Mars globally. Billboard magazine Now, Bruno's getting calls, Bruno Sammartino, from the newspapers. And
wow.
It goes around the world. It's the #1 trending picture in the world.
That's amazing.
Bruno meets Bruno. So I said to Bruno Sammartino, I said, "Champ, you're back on top." He goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "You're trending around the world." He goes, "What's that mean?"
Yeah, he had no idea.
Yeah.
I don't think he ever did a social media,
No.
did he?
I said, "You're #1 again." Yeah, that was one of the cooler moments.
That would be really cool. I met him one time. The only time I got to meet him is when they had that special thing. I think you might have been there up in Mount Washington for Joe.
Yeah.
And he was there and talked about him. And that was the only time I ever personally got to meet him and hear him speak.
That was only a few years ago.
Yeah, I think it was like 2 years ago.
Yeah. That was one of the last public things he did here.
Yeah, and he never changed. He always looked the same to me.
He was so humble, so natural, so appreciative of the fans. We were talking before we came on about autographs, different celebrities handle it differently. He would stay until the end. If there were 1,000 people, he would stay. And he said to me, "Why wouldn't I?" He said, "It's because of these people that I was able to do what I did all those years. I didn't want to disappoint anybody." Who does that?
Yeah, not many nowadays.
Not many.
And so how did he feel about, I mean, you knew him pretty well. You know, our country's made of immigrants. My dad's family, they were all, my mom's family. I mean, her grandma and her grandma's sister were given as much money as their parents had and put on a boat and said, "We hope you make it to America." You know, and that's the stories that you hear all the time. And his story of being an immigrant and reaching the pinnacle of what the U.S. can give you. And we see everything that's going on now. It's just crazy. There's so many people out there with great stories that can happen.
I think the strength of our country is our diversity.
Right.
It's the fact that we are a country of immigrants. We got people here who were compelled to come and make a better life for their families.
Right.
So right from the get-go, you know, it's not always smooth sailing, obviously, but in the end, there are people who are so desperate to reach this country. And Bruno appreciated, because it took him 3 years, he was so sick, before he could even get on a ship to get here.
Yeah.
And then his dad was caught working in the mill when the war broke out, so he couldn't even get home. So his wife and 3 children are stuck, and he has no idea whether they lived, died, or were killed in the war. And then when they reunited and came here, they made a home in Oakland. And Bruno said, people asked me over the years, "Bruno, you could have lived anywhere in the world." He goes, "I would never live anywhere but Pittsburgh. I love Pittsburgh, the people, you know."
Yeah.
And he's a success story. He's one of those who made something of himself out of nothing and continued to give back to others. So
He did. He appreciated it. He valued it.
I think this documentary is going to be a story that resonates. It's not such a wrestling story per se. The WWE is going to do that at some point.
Yeah,
and they'll do a phenomenal job at it.
Right.
This story is more about his mom in the mountains saving their lives. That's where he get his heart of a lion. How could you do what you do, Bruno? Because of my mother. I wanted to prove every day that her sacrifice was worth it.
Yeah.
She lived to be 97.
Wow.
And she was this, apparently, I didn't meet her, but she was a sweetheart, and you can imagine.
Yeah.
And they had a pool, and they would have barbecues, and we have the home footage.
Yeah.
And he would grab his mom around the neck, and she would you could see her beaming with pride. Love this.
Oh, yeah.
And, those are really happy moments. And he said, in the end, in spite of all the suffering and all the obstacles that we had to overcome, we made it. This country gave us a chance, and we reached a level of comfort and joy and family that we could have never had if they didn't escape, war-torn Italy.
Well, which is an amazing story. When does that documentary come out?
I just talked to the WWE last week. We have the rights to the footage that we're utilizing.
Wow.
And just got the release, and it is a big moment because now I want to give the WWE some love for that.
Because they don't let things go very often.
They recognize this as a family passion project. It's a feature documentary. It's not really going to interfere with anything they're doing. In fact, it'll be an enhancement.
I wonder who's going to narrate it.
Some guy.
Some guy that went to Clarion.
I did narrate it. Bruno asked me to. He says,
you would be great.
He said,
Did you impersonate him on it?
No. We had talked about asking Arnold Schwarzenegger, and then I thought, no, I don't want Arnold's so iconic. I don't want him to take away from the narration part. So Bruno said, well, why don't you do it? He said, you do the Steelers. And his wife said, yeah, you should do it. And the price was right.
Wow. Yeah.
So far.
Yeah, so far. Well, it's going to get even better once it comes out, I'm sure.
I'm excited because Bruno saw this documentary before he passed. He approved it. My mantra was, let's tell the story that Bruno and his wife Carol want to tell.
Yeah.
And if we follow that instinct, it is what it is, and I'll take my chances.
Because he hasn't been wrong yet.
No, I think it's going to resonate with immigrants of all different backgrounds.
Well, it's funny because I coached, I had him on a few weeks ago, Foye Aluakon. He's a linebacker for the Falcons now. But his dad immigrated from Nigeria, and I coached him in high school. And, his dad worked his butt off to put him through this private school. Then I had him a full scholarship to Oklahoma State, and his dad said, no, coach, he's going to Ivy League. And he made his sons, they were very smart. And Foye went to Yale. From Yale, I helped him get to work out, and now he was drafted by the Falcons. He played linebacker for him last year. And we talked to Foye. Foye's American, right?
Right.
But you talk to his dad, his name's Yemi, but we call him Steve. And every football game, he'd bring this drum they had from his village, and he'd be banging on the drum, yelling for the team. But I still text Yemi all the time. But there's just stories that this country can give people, and I think that Bruno is the epitome of all that.
He was so universally loved everywhere we went. New York City, Madison Square Garden, 2013, inducted into their Hall of Fame. Arnold Schwarzenegger flew in from a movie set in California just to do that.
Wow.
And he said, it's so good to be back in Madison Square Garden, filled to the rafters, which leaves me asked the question, where were you when my last movie came out? It was very funny. And then he says, speaking of movies, I told Bruno Sammartino, I want to make a movie about you, Bruno, and I want to play you. And Bruno said to me, Arnold, shouldn't we get a real actor? Funny stuff. But then he got, really serious and teed up Bruno. And it was out-of-body experience to hear that crowd chanting Bruno after all these years because he had made so many nights special there in the Garden before.
Oh, yeah. How many people went and watched him? How many think?
He was like the #1 ticket at one point around the globe. He wrestled in Japan. He was a superstar in Japan. Wow. He wrestled in Australia. Europe, obviously, Italy knows who he is. Canada, because he was up there for a few years. Mexico, South America. He's been all over the world. So there are people that know him at some places, even far corners of the world. Now, the older fans will know him. The younger people might not. But some of what...
If they're wrestling fans, they'll know him.
Yeah, but what Arnold says about him, and then we saw John Cena in New York. And couldn't have given him more love and respect.
Yeah.
The Rock kissed him on the cheek and said, champ, we stand on your shoulders. Just to see that kind of respect was fun to be a fly on the wall.
How do you feel like you had a relationship with him for a long time? I mean, that's just had to be an experience because everywhere you went, it was just like being, we've been around some really tremendous football players, that get crowds, but he was on a different level.
Yeah, it was so much fun, and I knew, I didn't take it for granted. I tried to suck it all in no matter where we went. To see how other people treated him and how he treated them was really fun to watch because they were a lot of times surprised just how gracious and kind he was,
Yeah, for being in a sport that was kind of built as aggressive and violent, you know what I mean? Like all the stuff they had.
Extremely physical, yeah.
Right, but just to see he was just humble, like you said, when you hear stories about him just meeting people, and there wasn't a lot of hate there. You know, he was just so thankful for everything that he ever got.
Yeah, and he credits his mom, and
yeah, she probably put him in a headlock a few times
she
too.
lived long enough to enjoy all of that, which was amazing to see. And we bought the rights to George Romero, the great George Romero, who did all the Night of the Living Dead and all those other movies. He did a documentary, a series about champions in Pittsburgh, and one of them was Bruno in the mid-'70s.
Wow.
So we bought the rights to that, and contained in that was, I think, the only video of his mom speaking. And of course, it's in Italian.
Right.
And, you know, when he saw all this put together for him, his story.
It's probably pretty emotional.
I sat in their home. They made me a little glass of wine and like a little cheese plate with stuff. You know? And it was just the three of us.
Watching
Bruno, Carol Sammartino, and me sitting there. You know, I'm on edge because I want to make sure he's happy, right?
Yeah.
And so they watched the whole thing, and it was very emotional for them, and great to see that he gave us the thumbs up.
Yeah. You know, it's amazing, your story, because you've embraced Pittsburgh. This is your town. You love it, and you've gotten to meet almost everybody that has come through here that has been
some cool people.
That have been really cool people, whether they're athletes or not. But you know, just from all the experiences you've had and the transitions you've had to make, just say that, you know, what would you tell somebody that says, okay, I'm not sure if I can do this, right? Or I lost my job, I got to go do something else. I mean, you're so positive in everything you do, and that's why I wanted to have you on your show, to tell these people that, look, it doesn't matter where you come from, what you do.
Well, it's really simple. My dad used to say a few things, and then I had a program director in college, and my dad had those sayings on the mirror, you know, set your goal, positive attitude, enthusiasm,
right?
Those kind of things as a basis. And I think you have to have a certain level of spirituality. You know, I don't tell other people what to think or feel. That's a personal thing, and if people want to share that, not share it, I believe there's a greater force going here, and there are a lot of good people. There's more good than bad. But when it comes to you, you have the choice to choose happiness. Happiness is absolutely a choice, no matter what your circumstances are. You can have something happen to you, and you can react, say, woe is me, everything's bad, this is so negative, nobody likes me. It's easy to talk yourself down that road. Or you have a chance to react to adversity, which I've seen many times in other people, and you wonder, well, how do they do it? Because they chose not to let those things get down. Happiness isn't a destination point. You're not going to get somewhere to be happy. You're happy in the journey if you choose to be.
Right.
Knowing there's going to be obstacles and things to overcome. Embrace the challenge, my dad used to say.
Yeah.
The program director that I had, his name's Dave Berner. He's now a prolific writer. He's a professor in Chicago and is on the radio still himself. He said, do the things that you're afraid to do. Not in a dumb or silly way like you did it when you were a teenager, but push yourself a little further than your comfort zone.
Right.
And you may find that
it's true.
You're better able to handle things than you think. And don't be timid, and don't worry so much about what other people think. As long as your heart's in the right place, as long as you're taking care of your family, you're trying to be a good person, you want to be a good husband, you want to be a good father, you want to be a good grandfather, you want to be a good friend, you want to be a good coworker. That's 5 things right there. You focus on that, you're never going to be far off the track. And if you get too far, those same people you love are going to slap you around a little bit.
Come on back. Yeah, so, you mean, that's such good advice, you know, and I want to think that there's some part that there's, you know, we all say we have a better half. And I'm not sure when you met your wife. Like, how long were you at KDKA, or was it before that?
I met her at WTAE. She was an intern, and then she became associate producer of a talk show on TV, Ann Devlin, Pittsburgh's Talking. I was in radio, and she walked through the cafeteria. She had these bright blue eyes, and I was like, oh, who is that? And so it took a while, but we eventually met, and then I can't remember when she told me we were getting married. We've been married 30 years.
Wow, that's great.
And
how many children do you have?
I have 3, one of each.
Are they 3, one of each?
Daughter, son, daughter. And then now I have 3 grandchildren, a grandson.
Wow.
2 little girls who are 2.5 weeks apart from my son's wife and then my youngest daughter.
Wow.
And now they both just told me they're each having another one.
Oh, wow. You spoil them?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And you know what? I tell young people, like, if you're 25, I said, I was you yesterday. People used to tell you that when you were young. Time goes flying. How is it possible? I am not capable of being somebody's grandfather.
Yeah. Oh, you're more than capable.
But when you're in the moment with them, there is a big difference than when you have your own kids. Because when you have your kids, you're in the midst of responsibility. You're working hard. You're trying to maintain that balance. But when you get to the next level, it's like God's way of thanking you for dealing with the other ones. Because when they're in the room, you don't care about anything else. And there's a magic. You know what it is? It's a love, and it's unconditional.
Right.
So I'm sure you had grandparents.
Yeah.
They just love you.
Yeah.
It
Didn't matter.
Didn't matter what happened. You won a game, lost a game.
They didn't care.
No, they just love you. Are you okay?
Yep.
I love you, honey. There's that, and it's real.
Well, for Annie and I, we're at that, so we have our daughters at vet school at Penn. Our sons are going to be a senior at William and Mary, and our other son, and our other son's going to be a junior at Delaware. So they're like right on the cusp of, we could be grandparents at any time.
Before you know it, guys, it'll just be like magic, and
it's going to be crazy,
and you'll love it.
Well, everything I've ever done, I've paid for all, I've told them, I said, it's about you guys and taking care of you, getting you through school, getting the things you want to do. At some point, you're off and you got to go figure it out for yourself. But until you're ready to do that, Annie and I are going to help you. So it's been an amazing journey.
The Italian people I met in my life through my wife's family.
Right.
Because I'm what they call a Metagan, which is a non-Italian.
Right.
It's alla famiglia, the family, it's
right.
With the faith, family, and in our case, football. So
right, and you have football huge in your family.
Yeah, football, and I also work with the Steelers, so I appreciate that, and don't take that lightly. I take it seriously. Game day, as the public address announcer at Heinz Field, nobody sees you, and that's good.
But they know your voice.
Well, when you're winning, and when we beat New England this year. Notice I said we. When the Steelers beat New England this year, on a year they won the Super Bowl, that was one of the big moments of the season.
Yeah.
And, we had it all going in the scoreboard room. There's a game day producer named Chris Burns, and these guys are just terrific. They're like another team.
Yeah.
So 50 people doing everything that you
can't imagine what it takes to coordinate all that.
We're a well-oiled machine because of them.
Right.
So you're part of the experience for the fans, and in some cases, occasionally can influence the outcome. You maybe cause a offside or something.
What's the song they play? And Renegade. Yeah, they play Renegade.
As soon as the screen goes by,
the
fans know it's coming, and that's fun because it's showtime. It's live in the moment.
It is.
It's fun.
It is, and it gets rocking.
It's a blast to be there and to be a part of that.
It's like when I played at the Chiefs. I was with the Redskins. It was my first time ever playing in Kansas City. And you're standing on the sideline. You just get done with pregame warm-up and saying the national anthem, singing it, and then right at the end, and it's the home of and the whole place goes, Chiefs, and it just rolls through your body, right? And then the stealth bomber flew over, and it looked like it just hit the top of the lights, right? And I look around, and the whole team is like, it's going to be a long day.
Did you win?
No, we didn't win. It was a rough. They had a really good team back then. That was when Okoye, Derek was playing DN, yes, and
you knew where he was all the time.
Yeah, but it was
Mike's 92.
Right. Slide. Go that way. But hey, we're going to break the huddle there, and we'll be right back
with Larry.
All right, so, hey, we're back in our segment now, In the Huddle with Larry. We're going to do our No Huddle segment. We're going to pepper some questions. You got 2 minutes to get down the field. You got to score a touchdown.
All right, let's go.
I think you have a relative who's pretty good at that. Anyway, so what we want to do is ask some quick questions here. So I think I know what the answer to this is, but who's your favorite former Pittsburgh athlete?
Wow. Living or dead, or is
Well,
it
just former. They're not playing. They're not current.
Roberto Clemente,
Why?
because there was something magic about him, and then when he was tragically taken from us, it elevated him to an unattainable level. But then when you went back and looked at how he played, conducted himself, people don't know he was a United States Marine.
Yes.
You know, I know you're very familiar with his story in the family, and I just love the way his energy, and you know, he overcame racism. He helped us in Pittsburgh be better people.
He was a chiropractor.
And that's another, people don't know that.
He used to take care of the guys in the locker room.
Roberto Clemente, yeah. Overall, if I had to just pick one, just because he was magic.
Yeah, that was our first interview. We interviewed Roberto Clemente Jr. And we got to hear a lot of good stories.
He's a great storyteller, and I love stories about his dad. And Neil Walker, the Pittsburgh kid's dad, Tom, played with him.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was about to get on the plane.
Oh, wow.
Neil Walker's dad was standing there and was going to go on the flight. And Roberto said, it was New Year's Eve. He said, no, you stay. I'll see you at the party when we get back.
Wow, that's great.
Tom,
we heard it from.
He still gets choked up about
it. Well, we heard it. Roberto told us about when, Dad left that day.
Yeah.
So it was pretty emotional.
It's amazing how much pain that just thought of how tragic it was. But you know what? He died helping other people.
Yeah.
And again, he was a great baseball player, but he was an even better human being, and he helped this city overcome, some barriers too.
Yeah.
So Roberto Clemente,
Right, there
now
you go.
betting. Right fielder, number 21, Roberto Clemente.
With a cannon for an arm.
That was the
basket catch.
Yeah, everything. What about current player? There's, we have 3 amazing teams.
Sidney Crosby. Works hard. He's a superstar. Doesn't take it for granted. He's humble. Treats people with a huge humility that, as a superstar, he could probably get away with being a prima donna and no one would care. But he doesn't take what he does for granted. He's the first one on the ice, the last one off the ice. There's a reason he's great, because he wants to be great, and he puts the effort in to be great.
Well, I will say this, you and Dave Hansen had the same answer.
Oh, is that what Dave said?
Yes. He said there's an old school presence about him that plays the game because he loves it, not because he's making money.
He's got all the money he's needed. It's the love of the game. You can't you can't categorize it in that way at all.
Yeah. And how lucky is Pittsburgh to have
How do you follow up? You got a guy like Pierre LaRouche, who's the first French-Canadian superstar here. Then you got John Pronovost, and then this is the French connection of Pittsburgh.
Right.
Then you got Mario Lemieux, who saved hockey 3 times here.
Right.
And then you get Sidney Crosby. We got 5 Stanley Cups.
Well, yeah, and even look at the other guys. There's Yager was here. Oh. Right, and then we got Malkin. Like we've had like some superstars, and then we've had superstars, and like it's just been incredible.
We're blessed beyond imagination.
Right.
Sidney Crosby.
Right. Okay. Now you've been obviously Pittsburgh your whole life. You've been here. You've been on the radio. You've probably eaten at every restaurant. Tell me, give me at least top 3 Pittsburgh restaurants.
All right, top 3 is, if you like seafood, it's Off the Hook in Warrendale, which is right off of 79.
Really?
Phenomenal fish. It's not the cheapest place.
Right.
But if you're going to pay, you might as well get the best.
Might as well get the best.
Great seafood. Tambellini's.
Been there many times, yes.
They're wonderful people. Joe and his wife, and I love Italian food. And then if I had to pick a third, man, that's tough, because there's a place on South Side. It's called Stagione's.
Yeah.
It's right on East Carson Street, not too far from the Birmingham Bridge. tapas-sized dishes that are absolutely delicious. You should try it.
I'm going to have to try it. I haven't been. I'm going to have to try.
This is a winner for you.
Yeah. Well, we live in Oakmont, so we rarely cross a bridge or a river to go eat.
You got to come down. Well, you could come down to the south side sometime.
Yeah, definitely. South side. All right, so this was one we always ask people. If we were going through your phone and looking at all the people on your phone list, who's the most famous person you have in your phone right now?
Wow. That's a good one.
I know you have a lot.
Triple H, WWE. I do have a lot of famous phone numbers. Rocky Blyer.
Yeah, Rock's
Franco
a good one.
Harris.
I love it.
Dan Marino.
Dan Marino. You have to have
Dan.
Dan.
He doesn't answer my calls, though.
He doesn't?
No, stars don't answer calls. They answer a text. Maybe.
Oh, really?
You text first.
I like answering calls.
Yeah.
I texting is, I don't know. I'm kind of over that.
So those would be some top picks.
This week on our show, we had Chris Long on. And so we asked Chris this question. And so he answers it, well, a great drinking game I have to go with looking up names on your phone. And he went into a 20-minute drinking game called Cell Phone Roulette. And some other time I'll have to tell you about it because.
I want to try it.
And all I asked him was, who's the most famous person in your phone?
Yeah, of course, up until recently, Bruno Sammartino.
Wow.
It's kind of fun because people would say, Bruno Sammartino?
You might have Arnold. Do you have Arnold?
I don't have Arnold's cell phone. I got Arnold's guy.
You got Arnold's guy.
It's
not the same. All right. What's your biggest pet peeve?
People who think too much of themselves and treat other people in a way that's rude and inappropriate.
Right.
I've been around people that have taught me, over the years, starting with my own parents. They never used the F word. They never used the N word.
Right.
They always told us to respect people, and so it started there. So I have a low tolerance for people who think a lot of themselves and treat other people that way.
Right. I like that. Very good. Favorite song or band? I know you were a DJ back in the day.
Overall, globally, and I don't listen to their stuff much anymore, Led Zeppelin.
Oh, yeah. Give me some on that one.
Led Zeppelin.
What song?
Well, the Presence album. I know the old school stuff. First rock song I think I recall was Black Dog, 1968. I was only 10 years old. And from there, Stairway to Heaven. It's almost, you don't want to say that because it's too.
Right.
But there's so many.
I've kind of switched. See, my wife's favorite was always Tangerine. And so that's what we listen to all the time. So I've kind of gone that way.
That's a good one.
That's a good one. Okay, you've had so many, and you may have already said it, but what is the greatest experience you've had in your life, besides your kids being born and being married?
Yes, meeting my wife. Greatest experience. In terms of my professional life, I guess it would be being with Bruno Sammartino in Madison Square Garden at his Hall of Fame induction, is to be a fly on the wall, participate in that, and to see people pour out genuine love and appreciation and him thank them back. Yeah. This has to be right up there.
Has to be right up there. And I thought your number two might be when you got to sit down and interview Bill Mazeroski.
Bill was, that was up there. That was an out-of-body experience. And narrating the Stiller highlight films.
Yeah.
I got to do 2 Super Bowls.
Right.
Yeah,
what amazing.
Nobody knows it's you because, nobody sees you, and that's cool. And I like that too. But to be associated with...
Did you make your kids listen to it?
Yeah. I used to show them, hey, I got the DVD first, This is the premiere. We're going to have it right in our house. And they were like, okay, Dad. They liked it, but I'll tell you, another person, though, was the late ambassador, Dan Rooney. Yeah. I love that man. He was like almost like a father figure to me because the way he treated people and his humility. Again, it all gets back to these are people who could act big time and they could get away with it, but don't.
Right.
and that's who I gravitate to, because I appreciate that in Ambassador Rooney, who's just such a warm family man, classic guy, and
he was.
He used to come to the scoreboard room before every game.
Right.
And before his last playoff game was Miami 2 seasons ago.
Yeah.
And I said to him when he came to the door, I said, Ambassador, I said, I'm going to leave it out on the field today. And he went, oh, Larry.
All right, so I got to ask you one about my co-host who wasn't able to be here today. So was Dave Hager a good or a great intern?
You know, he was a game changer, Gus. You know, there are certain individuals in life that are able to somehow, you know, take the next step and move everybody to a higher level. That was Dave.
That was Dave. Just took everybody.
You know, it's been a few semesters, but Dave made his mark. We're still trying to clean it off, but Dave was, it was great for him to come in, and I knew his brother and grew up with his brother. And, you know, Pittsburgh, you're a half person from everybody.
Oh, yeah. You're very close to everyone.
Yeah. So,
and it always happens that way.
Dave was always a good man.
Okay, last question. And you've had so many wonderful life experiences. You're on the radio every day. You get to meet amazing people. But what are your top 3 things that are on your bucket list yet?
I want to go to Australia. As far as travel's one of the greatest things I think you can do. I was blessed to be able to go to Italy and have that experience.
Did you meet the Pope?
No. He wasn't home when I called.
He wasn't there.
Forget about it.
I figured Bruno could get you in.
Bruno did meet the Pope in his day. I never thought I'd get to Europe.
Yeah.
And it ends up that I've been to Europe 6 times.
Wow.
And this was after I was, 45 years old. So you're thinking, hey, travel's so great because no one can ever take it away from you.
Right. It's an experience.
Even in your quiet moments, if you were by yourself, you could still imagine the things that you did and remember them. So I want to go to Australia if I can, just once. The other 2 bucket lists are, that's a great question. I want to get into better shape. I'm not quitting.
You're in great shape.
I'm not quitting yet. I could be somebody. I could be a contender, Gus.
Yeah. But no skydiving, jumping out of a plane, scuba diving.
I thought about skydiving, and then I thought better of it. I thought, why would you get out of a perfectly good plane? If you had to, I got you. But I don't know. I've been so extraordinarily blessed. I feel like I got a lot of things I want to do.
Just more grandkids.
You know, they just keep coming. I think there's a biblical thing where there'll be more than the stars. You know, like they're coming now. But I just want to be somebody who tries to lift and help others too along the way. And you know, I'm nothing special really, but I try to reach out to other people where I can. And I'd like to see us do a better job of taking care of the homeless people in this area and veterans very close to.
Right. Well, here at the EIC, they've signed 3 veteran groups, and Volker out of Voodoo Brewing. Yeah. They're going to be making all the veterans will be helping make all the food for the restaurants and teaching them new career paths and all of that here at the EIC Energy Innovation Center.
EIC, this is great. This is a little gem here. I didn't know this was here right under our noses.
It is. It really is, and I'm proud to be a part of it. But
good for you.
You know what?
Thanks for having me on Huddle Up.
Yeah, I know. Live. Yeah, but you are a role model, and thank you so much for coming on, and you definitely changed people's lives.
Number 12, Gus Farad.
Yeah, when you do my voiceover, you just got to leave one little part out that everybody likes to talk about, but we'll let that go.
Don't beat yourself up.
Yeah, I've already done that.
You gotta move on. You can't you hit the reset button. You've done a lot of good things, and nobody can take those away from you.
Yeah,
15 years in the NFL, are you kidding me? A quarterback?
Been married 25.
That's right there is 1, 2.
Right. Which one's
the
first?
second one first.
Yeah, there you go. But thanks for coming on, Huddle Up, and we'll see you next week.